When you're one of the older kids, you're conscious that you're a role model for the younger kids. And when you're one of the younger kids, there are a lot of older kids around that you can look up to.
Hi, I'm Danielle from Our Kids. I just spoke with Kerry Mitchell, the parent of Claire, a grade 12 student who attends Blyth Academy. During our discussion, Kerry shared insight about how Blyth Academy helped nurture and develop her daughter's athleticism, as well as meet her daughter's learning needs within small, intimate classroom sizes. Have a listen to learn more about Blyth Academy from the first-hand perspective of a parent. Tell me a little bit more about Claire. What are her likes and dislikes? What kind of learner is she as well?
Mm-hmm. Claire is a competitive athlete. She's a student athlete. Hockey is her primary passion and sport, but she's always been, from the time that she was young, she's always been heavily involved in a number of different sports when she was younger. Definitely prefers the smaller environment for learning. It's really great for her to have the one-on-one attention and the smaller class sizes. She really thrives in that environment.
So before we dive deep into the private school discussion, were there any traits about your child that you wanted recognized or wanted improvement on that might have kind of influenced your decision in putting her in this school? Was there any help with certain subjects or developing certain traits like confidence, independence, anything that you can speak about with that?
Mm-hmm. I think it's mostly she's been a student in both larger environments and smaller environments, and I've seen the benefit of that smaller class size for focus, for engagement, and the availability of teachers for individual attention or customizing some of the learning, which is good for most kids, I think. And she certainly thrives academically in that kind of a smaller, more nurturing environment. And then the sports element, which I can talk about in more detail, is just such a significant part of her personality. And you know, in the middle school years, a lot of girls who had always been sporty and always been athletic seemed to sort of gravitate away from that at a time which she wasn't really taking her foot off the gas in terms of the athletic focus. So, you know, I know in her last year at her other school, there weren't even enough girls to field the softball team. So she was on the boys softball team and things like that. You know, she was on all the sports teams. And that's a part of her personality that we definitely wanted to nurture and support. It's such a huge part of who she is. I think there's a real purity to girls' sport because it's not a pursuit of there's no pursuit of wealth in female sports right now, but it's kind of the best of sport in terms of developing a whole person, developing great life skills. And so we definitely wanted an environment where that significant part of who she is as a very serious competitive athlete could be celebrated and developed as well.
So do you feel like the school celebrated and developed those abilities within her? Do you feel like they supported and nurtured her athleticism?
Absolutely, you know, and in going to school alongside other athletes, there's a focus, there's an organizational skill, there's a you know, healthy lifestyle to that student community that I think is good not just for her but for all the students there.
Can you explain a little bit about your process in terms of choosing Blyth Academy? Like, were you considering any other schools as well, and what initially drew you to that school?
Mm-hmm. It was a recommendation by a teacher at our former school who knew Claire and knew, you know, had heard of this school and thought it might be an interesting fit for her. You know, in looking into it, again, the size is a key component. It's become even more more interesting over the last few months with the COVID shutdown, more of a benefit. And we were just, you know, I really engaged with the principal there, had a chance to meet a couple of the teachers. There's definitely a sense you get from the people you meet associated with the school, and taking the time to talk to and get to know the principal, his approach, his attitude and vision, And that of the couple of the teachers that I met initially really gave me a sense, and some of the students that we just saw and interacted with in the first couple of times that we visited. We love the facilities. You know, in addition to the sports specific facilities of having the rink for people like Claire who play hockey and being able to skate every day at school, which is terrific. There's just like terrific gym facilities, terrific outdoor field facilities that people might not know of when they look at the location of the school. They might not realize that the facilities and access to local facilities is actually pretty impressive. So that was you know, it's hard to take an athletic kid into that environment and not have them fall in love with it. So that's a consideration as well.
How long was Claire at Blyth for?
She started at Blyth in grade 8. She's going into grade 12.
Okay, and just from a parent perspective, witnessing her transformation and going into the school, have you noticed any differences in the way that her behavior is, and her ability to make new friends, and her athleticism? What can you speak about by witnessing that experience yourself?
Mm-hmm. I think in that environment, every student is really known, and every student has an opportunity to stand up and stand out. And in terms of leadership skills and her role as a role model and leader in the school, I'd say two things. The size of the school enables that a little better, or provides more of an opportunity for that, and also the grade span that you have. You know, you have kids as young as, I think, grade 5 right up to grade 12. So when you're one of the older kids, you're conscious that you're a role model for the younger kids. And when you're one of the younger kids, there are a lot of older kids around that you can look up to. So, you know, it really creates that within the student community itself. There's a nice balance in terms of mentors, leaders, role models, and those who can model their behavior after some of the older kids there. So I think that grade span is another advantage of the school and the student community.
She would have been transitioning from elementary school, and it sounds like she had a pretty good experience at the school so far, not only for athleticism, but you mentioned the intimate class sizes.
Yeah.
You can develop it according to specialized learning styles. So it seems, based on what you're saying, that they spend a lot of time to get to know the students on a one-on-one basis.
Yeah, and they have the bandwidth to really, so early in her high school career, she struggled with math, for example, and having the benefit of teachers who have the time and the commitment and the desire to really work with students individually to help them overcome those barriers. It's something that, something that used to be a weakness has become more of a strength. So that's it's such a gratifying thing to witness in your child, that just help, having the individual attention to help make those connections and overcome some gaps as we all have challenges when we're trying to learn, and the approach to helping each student with whatever that barrier might be. You really see that play out, especially as she's entering her senior year with really solid, not just solid academics, but very solid study habits and organization and skills that will serve her well beyond high school as well.
So skills that can transfer to post-secondary if she decides to pursue post-secondary.
Yeah.
If you can name one thing that you think Claire liked the most about her experience at the Academy, and I'm going to say that you can't say athleticism because we know that she's an athlete. What would you name?
Yeah, that's a big part of it. I think I'll say two things: the size of the community, because again, it's a better opportunity to be known and to know others, and the size of the student community and the ability then for teachers to really get to know you and support you and customize that support. It's hard not to mention the athleticism and the athletic facilities and programming, but that's notable, and it really came to life for me through the COVID shutdown because Blyth Downsview Park pivoted so seamlessly and in such a student-focused way. Those kids didn't miss a beat. They didn't miss a beat. In fact, the school really went above and beyond in terms of programming beyond the academic, daily academic Zoom classes. So even though the students weren't together physically, they were seeing each other every day in Zoom classrooms. There was no hiccup in that regard, but they really went above and beyond, recognizing that students were isolated, students were at home. They programmed just terrific morning, guest speakers, celebrity speakers, at-home workout, virtual workout programs. So it gave the students an opportunity to continue to feel engaged in their school community, continue to learn, not missing a beat on the learning at all. And that came from, I was already impressed by the teacher community, but the extent to which they really stepped up and were, as those teachers were going through their own isolation and their own, struggles with what we all went through, what we're all still going through, they just went above and beyond. And that's, on the one hand, knowing the school and being a fan of the school, it didn't surprise me. But on the other hand, it's one of those things I want other people to know. It's a special group. I think it comes from the culture and tone that's set by the leadership there. But you don't pay somebody to care. People are caring people or they're not caring people. And these people really stepped up and cared about each student who they already knew pretty well.
So if I were to ask you one thing that you appreciate and value the most about the school, what would you say? Would you speak to the sense of community or the staff that's there? What's something that's personally affected you and made you feel very gratified for choosing the school for your daughter?
Mm-hmm. I think it's the communication and the accessibility. There's a real, my kids have been students at larger schools. I feel like I have, I feel connected to the school. I feel that if ever there is a question or I can call the principal of the school or a teacher. It's a very, very open, communicative, that's part of the small school community. I feel very much a part of it. And so does my daughter, who's a student there. And I think that goes beyond size. I think that's culture, and there's no us and them. We're all part of the community.
Was there anything that maybe surprised you before enrolling Claire and Blyth? Something that you didn't expect, that you were happy or not happy with throughout your experience there?
Mm-hmm. It surprises me that the gender imbalance surprises me. I think sport is such a terrific, healthy thing to build around, and I would love to see more girls at the school. I mentioned that sort of middle school age when I saw a lot of girls who had always been sporty, just losing some of that passion or putting it lower on their list. And I think in terms of life skills and in terms of healthy living, healthy lifestyle, it's such a terrific thing for families to support and encourage. That's one thing I'd love to see more of. I'd love to see more families thinking of a more athletic academic environment for their daughters, as much as many families do for their sons.
So that kind of transitions into my next question, but I wanted to ask you, what are the school's values and actual practice that you've seen after having a firsthand experience putting your daughter in the school and witnessing it yourself?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think it is that, small enough that every student is known, understood, and can succeed in a holistic life way. So academics, development as good members of the community. As Claire is entering her senior year, that means leadership skills, skills in terms of confidence and treating one another with respect and treating one another well, on top of the academics. The academics are the foundation, they're central. you know, some kids can thrive in a large academic environment. Others are more likely to thrive in a smaller environment. So that's a great appeal to me and to us as a family.
And would you be able to describe what a typical family might look like at Blyth? Like, do the values and goals of the parents relate to the other parents? Is there that sense of community, not only with the parents and staff and administration, but between family and family?
Mm-hmm. I'd say less so on a and don't forget I started at an older and a higher grade level. I think if we had started there at a younger grade level, we might have some of that parent to parent community. I think it exists more with some of the boys' families. They're more likely to be on teams together or participate with each other outside of school than we have been. But I don't think that's something that doesn't feel like a gap to me. You know, I know that my daughter's thriving. I know that I have an open channel with the school, as does she. Whenever the need arrives, I know there's a really there's a proactive investment by the teachers and the staff there in just terrific programming for the kids, academically, physically, and in terms of social leadership skills. So that's enough for me.
That's amazing. And I want to play devil's advocate for a minute. But we've talked so much about such wonderful things about the school. I want to ask you, no school is perfect. We all know this. If there was one weakness that you can speak to, what would you say?
Yeah, I think I'll come at that two ways. I think the first is the one I already mentioned in terms of gender diversity, which I think, you know, my daughter would say she's been fine with it. She gets to, you know, she's been fine with it. So it's not her issue as much as it is mine. And in terms of, you know, training with the boys, studying with the boys, she's fine with it. I would like to see more athletic girls at a school like that. And initially I worried that the location would be a negative. It's not, you know, it's not in a residential neighborhood. It's not a school that anyone can walk to. But having said that, and especially as the kids get older, it's highly accessible by public transit now. And what you lose in the walking score, if you will, you gain in the quality of the facilities up there. And I don't, you know, until you actually walk in and see the school facilities, the gym facilities, the sports specific training facilities, and the room that the kids do have to get out and be outside and run around on a field and that sort of thing, you can't appreciate it until you visit it firsthand. And I perceive that to be a bigger negative than it's actually turned out to be.
So you would definitely recommend taking a visit to the school itself?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And meeting the principal, meeting a couple of teachers there. They're dedicated. They're all there for a reason. And that's what engaged us initially, and it's proven to be, you know, it's lived up to first impressions for sure.
Amazing. And now that we have an overall picture of the school, if the Blyth Academy was a person and you were to describe this person in 3 words, what 3 words would you use?
That's a tough one. I have to start with healthy, kind, maybe I'd say caring, healthy, caring, dedicated.
And why did you choose those 3 words?
Well, healthy because I think a kid's health is holistic and it goes beyond academics, and an environment that focuses on whole child is good for everybody. good for students, good for families, good for the students' futures. I think caring because we're all busy. We all have lots of priorities. It can be easy to forget that every individual has individual needs, challenges, desires, strengths, weaknesses, And in my experience, that that knowledge of the individual and caring about, how each one student is going to thrive or succeed, it's been obvious to me, not just in just in our experience with our student, but in what I've observed with other students as well. And dedicated in terms of, and it really came to life through the COVID shutdown, but it's one thing to be nimble, and it's one thing to adjust to circumstances. It's another to do it while keeping a very clear focus on first principles of ensuring that every student succeeds on her or his path, a journey at the school. And that's where I was really impressed with the larger purpose behind the pivot when COVID shut everything down. It came from a place of, from my perspective, real dedication to each of the students and what they needed to continue to thrive and succeed through a really challenging time.
So outside of those answers that you had given me, if another family is considering sending their child to Blyth Academy, what advice would you give to them?
Absolutely take a visit. Talk to the principal there. He's been there as long as we've been there, and sets the tone for the culture. Talk to other students. Students, parents have an opinion, teachers have an opinion, but I think it's really important for students to observe and hear from other students. But take the time to visit. I think it makes a world of difference when you see it firsthand.
And my very last question for you is, if you could pick up the phone and call your past self and have a discussion with you before you even embarked into this experience, what would you say to yourself?
Mm-hmm. Interesting, though I brought it up earlier, I would say, don't worry that there are more boys than girls. She's going to be fine. Yeah. Yes.